And with my opinion court panel to weigh in on matters security. I want to begin with you, Junette, because we've heard from court time and again that the government is failing on security. What particular issues, and be very specific, do you feel they have failed to address?
Basically, the government has failed in many things, but the worst of it is the security part of it, the security mandate. Because the only thing that the government has done so far, you have to differentiate between terrorism and aliens. Aliens are found all over the world, not only in Kenya. So that one, you just take them back to where they were, or you give them, identification, such kind of things. But terrorists are found in many forms and many religions and many communities. Now, the only thing they have done now is to go to some place like Isli or other places where certain type of communities are living, round them up, take them to Kasarani, like a concentration camp, and say that we have arrested terrorists, we have arrested aliens, we have arrested suspects. That is not the way to do it. I thought, I'm very much sorry for what happened yesterday at Pangani, but I expected once the government has roughed up 4,000 people in Kasarani, I thought that would have been the end of terrorism. I was shocked yesterday when I saw another bomb happening in Pangani. So stereotyping and focusing in certain direction in certain community is worse than even what we are accusing the former vice president doing. Former vice president was just talking about certain people who voted for certain means in certain ways in Jubilee or CORD. But this one is worse. What the government is doing is worse, because they're stereotyping and saying that it is this community, it is that community. That is not the way the government can secure this nation. They better look for other ways of doing.
Let me bring in Turi to comment on that.
I want to make it very clear that the issue of the security in this country is not anything that we can really compromise on. It must also be noted that the core function of this government is to protect the people and the property of the Kenyan people. And terrorism is not only a Kenyan problem, but a global problem. And one of the things that I believe should be done, and very seriously, is the Kenyan people must be engaged to the extent that I personally believe that they have a lot of information on all people that, in my view, could be having information that could assist the police and the government enforcement, law enforcement agencies to really net or to get to know those people that are involved in crime. The Nyumba Kumi initiative by the Jubilee government is one initiative that, in my view, is really commendable, because it really sets a situation whereby we must know each other, and so that just in case there is a problem, then when you are called upon, then you are able to make certain interference.
What about Salama Watch, which is alluded to?
I would want to condemn, to specifically comment on the issue that Junette is trying to allude to. The fight against crime or against terrorism in this country is not about the tribe. It's not about religion. It's about war on terror. When you say government is targeting a certain community, in my view, it's wrong, it's misleading. For example, if I want to really make you understand some bit of history, and may God rest is so in peace, the late Honorable Michuki, when Michuki came up and said we must deal with the Mungiki, Michuki continually cracked down the Mungiki in this country. There is no Kikuyu, no Honembote that came out to say that this is our boys and sons that are being killed. This was fighting crime. So the position that has been taken by my brother is wrong, is misleading, and I would want to advise you, please, let us not mislead these people in this country.
I agree with him what he's saying, but let me ask you something. I am not saying that we should not fight terrorism or we should not fight criminals. That is the job of every Kenyan, because we have to make our country safe. But he has alluded to Michuki. I agree Michuki was a good minister and he did his job very well. But when he was fighting Mungiki, for example, in Muranga, we have seen him fighting Mungiki in Muranga by arresting those Mungikis. We have not seen him rounding up 4,000 people in Muranga and taking them to a certain stadium and telling them, come out one by one, you are all Mungiki. One by one, you are all Mungiki. We have not seen that. So what we are talking about is not the issue of government arresting criminals or taking action against criminals. What we are talking about is that Even me today, as a member of parliament who's of Somali origin and a Luo by association, I have to work with my ID everywhere in town because they might mistake me to be a terrorist or to be an alien.
Let me tell you, Mheshimiwa, you come from the CORD coalition.
Yes.
Go and tell them they have got it wrong on security, and we're getting fed up with them. The president is on the right track because he has not done, we wanted him to act. The CORD has been part of the security problem in this country.
How?
They have, one of the things that is required to be done in this country was to make sure that we sanitize the police force and make sure that reforms are done. Some of the CORD sympathizers have been part of the vetting process that has been flawed. They have not moved in parliament to give us laws that will make sure this vetting process works properly. So what is missing here is this. I can only give you information if I trust you. CORD is saying we want people to get intelligence. The intelligence collection is not good. The focus should be for CORD, and I go back to the question that was posed. I think that journalist had a good question. But because CORD is guilty of committing crimes that would cause us problems in future, they couldn't answer the question. The question is this, just wait. I want to finish this.
Let him finish.
I want to finish this point. The point is this. When you gather intelligence, you gather from people that trust you. So CORD should push hard for police reforms. Make sure the security intelligence in this country can be trusted by the public. Then the public will give you information. But to just say the government is not getting right when our citizens are dying, the solution should also come from CORD. Collecting intelligence, who is giving who the intelligence reports? It must be individuals like you and me who will tell the police this. But the trust is not there. And the trust is not there because the police reforms that were supposed to be done have not been done well. There are certain people in the police that the public is not happy that they are serving. So that is where the problem is.
Let me interject there. First of all, CORD is not guilty of anything, number one. Number two, you don't expect the reforms in the police service to be done only by CORD. That is a mandate of the whole parliament, which Jubilee has more numbers even than CORD.
What has CORD done to show that it is interested in bringing these changes?
Let me explain to you. Then number two, the trust in the police service was lost long way ago. It was not lost now because CORD is in existence. Kenya has lost faith in the police service before we were born. We found police where
perhaps if I could just narrow down your point, there has been the question of the immigration ministry. When Otieno Kajang was there, he's a member of CORD, and it is alleged that it's during that time where we saw a huge number of
This is exactly what I wanted to say.
So why don't you touch perhaps then on what some Kenyans believe would have been CORD's hand in contributing to insecurity at that time?
Let me tell you something. First and foremost, Otieno Kajang was a minister in a coalition government. He was not a minister in a government that belonged to ODM or to CORD. He was in a minister that was both PNU and ODM. And he was a minister in a ministry that in the nature was a state ministry under the office of the president. So what we expected,
very trivial
let me ask you something.
Trivial.
To bring up propaganda now that Otieno Kajang brought 1 million people who were aliens in this country is to miss the point, really. I mean, we can't go that way, Shwan.
Yes,
No, we can't go that way,
With all
Shwan.
due respect, Mheshimiwa and Junet, one thing I want you to make you understand is that the current problems that the Jubilee coalition is trying really to fight around, it's an inheritance of what Uhuru and Ruto got from the former coalition government. Where you remember, Yuambos was our core principle. They were sharing power equally. And all those other ministers that I find, or members of the CORD leadership, really were ending very serious ministries. So because this thing has not just happened this year, because one of the problems that we find, especially with the issues of terrorism, are issues with the manner in which either work permits or how people were allowed to get into the country without proper procedures. And this must have been.
Let me give you
one at a time, please.
And the other thing is that you are used to running away from the real issues. Let me remind you one thing. This country has a legal system that is so clear, so definite in a manner in which it's supposed to address issues that bring conflict between ourselves. Remember, when you bring about the issue of the manner in which the government is handling terrorism in this country, criminal liability is individual. So when you find a criminal or people rounded up, allow the police officers to carry out their investigations, and if there are no investigations, these people will be released. And if there are any reasons or evidence to make them appear before court of law,
make a clarification.
I
want to help you. Let me make a clarification. Just a minute. Let me make a let me clarify. Let me clarify. No, let me just clarify one thing. I want to tell you one thing. So the aliens you're suspecting must be of Somali origin. Let me tell you something. Somalia lost their government in 1991, not in the coalition government type, number one. Number two, the refugee camps where Somalis come from are found way from here, 1,000 kilometers from here in Dadaab. Who is this person who is allowing them to come all the way from Dadaab to Nairobi? Is it Otieno Kajwang? Or was it the coalition government where ODM was just holding the train?
No, we know.
Oh, do you know where power was?
No,
power was with Kibaki.
We know
What are you talking about,
Professor, your final comments, please, because we must move on to
we know
other
the
news.
principal organizer and supervisor of elections was the former prime minister. Yes. And Otieno Kajwang was there. And you know, you look at this matter and look at it against the newly announced program by the government that they want to register people. Yeah. Part of the problem from security, we have registered aliens, and they got most of these IDs during Kajwanga's time.
That's a lie.
Yes, they did.
That is a big lie.
Professor,
that's a lie.
You don't want that thing.
That's a big lie.
Professor is
That's a big lie.
You don't want
I'm going to move on because
if Kajwang had powers to issue IDs, we'll have won the election.
That conversation, it's clearly a heated one and one that will return to. Gentlemen, thank you. We'll be back to that. Let's move on to court matters now. And